And let's do introductions first. Emma Poricolo, did I get the name?
Yes,
Hey,
yes.
good job,
100%.
Carol. Is with us. Emma is part of our planning department. And she drew the short straw in the planning department. And so she's the one that has to deal with the houses that are designated historic. So if a property owner wants to make an alteration, they get a meeting with Emma. And it's a pre-application meeting is what it's called, and she discusses with them what they plan to do, and then you tell them what documents they need to bring and what drawings and information. And then at some point, she reviews it and then probably talks to her boss, the planning director, and they decide if this is a major or a minor alteration. If it's a minor alteration, and all this is in the code, by the way, the minor alterations can be approved by the planning director. Typically, a minor alteration would look like something like you've got a fascia board that's rotting and you need to replace it. And so you're going to use the same material. It's going to look the same. It's going to fit in, and there's not going to be a problem. Sometimes it can be a major thing like the project's major, but it's considered minor. A roof replacement, if you're using the same type of shingles, the same color, the same shape, that's not anything that needs to come to us for review. They can take care of that for us. But when there's any kind of question at all, Emma will write the staff report. She actually does an analysis, looks at what the property owner wants to do, and then she looks at you're gonna shake your head, yes, tell me if I do anything wrong. Then she's gonna look at what the Department of Interior standards are and compare those two and come to a conclusion as to, she'll either recommend to us, because by that time, if they've decided it's going to be something that comes to the Heritage and Landmark Commission, she will have to be writing a staff report to tell us the planning department's recommendation on whether we should approve or disapprove. And sometimes the approval would also have modifications to it. Like if the property owner does X, Y, and Z, then you should approve this, but it should be part of the thing. So it's important for Emma to know all of us and for us to know her, because there's always a chance that we'll have a design review. In fact, there's one sort of looming out there right now.
Yeah.
So it's always good to know who you're dealing with. So I thought we'd go around and introduce ourselves, so you can just say.
I'm Olivia Barrett. I own All Photography in town. This is my third meeting, my first official meeting that I can actually make votes.
Yeah.
I'm Doug Berkland. I've been in Canby way too long, 50 years, married into one of the old families. There's 2 houses down in Barlow that my mother-in-law helped her dad build. And she graduated Canby High, 46 or 7, something like that. I was also on the depot project. I know just about every nail in that depot and then some. And when we were going to designate that as a historic structure, and Salem said, well, it's not in the original spot and it's not parallel to the railroad. I said, where were you 40 years ago when the railroad said, you can have the depot, but you got to move it? That was the only place we found to move it. So, yeah, I don't know.
And you know Jamie.
Around the block, I'm fairly new to Canby, so on average with Doug, I offset his 50 years, 1 year in town.
I'm Jennifer Giller. I've been doing this off and on for a while. I'm also on the Canby Historical Society board as well.
And one more thing for the good of the order, we actually have, hi, Jason. You know Emma, I'm sure, since you were on the planning.
Yes.
Commission. Oh, good, okay. We were just talking about if we get into a design review, Emma's our staff person. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, cool. We have 2 properties that are being, maybe applying to get a DeMuro award, which is totally cool. We only have 1 property in Canby that's currently on the DeMuro, that's won a DeMuro award, and that's the City Hall, not this one, the Holly Street City Hall, for the rehabilitation that was done there. The Mark Prairie School is going to apply, and I think they've got a good chance. There's some political issues there that they might have to get through, but they've done a really amazing job. And Jennifer is going to apply for her house, for the rehabilitation on her house. So that would be amazing to have 3 DeMuro Award winners in this community, our very small community, without a lot of designated properties. And if you're not familiar with the DeMuro Award, Restore Oregon is the sort of the statewide nonprofit that supports historic preservation. And one of the things they do every year is have awards for people that, property owners that do a good job, developers, architects, whoever's involved in the project. So it's totally wonderful, and they make a lot of money off of it. You even have to pay to put in your application, but it's a great program. So Ron, let's go to approval of minutes.
Okay, you all have the minutes.
Mhm.
Are there any questions or corrections?
If not, does somebody want to make a motion or? Or make a motion to approve the minutes?
One second.
All those in favor?
All right.
Cool. Okay, I've got some follow-up items. Historic Preservation Month, the proclamation is written. It is at the city administrator's office. One of the things that's going to be happening with the proclamation is it will be given to Judy Oss, who is the past president of the Mark Prairie Historical Society. Their work is done this year, and they're doing their open house to ribbon cut for the property for the completion of the rehabilitation on May 14th. So that's a huge achievement, given if you've ever, some of you may have seen the pictures on social media, and there's something about a tree falling in the middle of a building that never looks good. And so, and they're actually very fortunate they were able to save a lot of things like the wood flooring, which was amazing that they were able to save that. So the tour, I just need to get down to the depot and spend a little bit of time in the back room in the files, getting some more information. In particular, I need more information on one of our very first fire chiefs who was fired for improper behavior. That's one of our scandals.
Oh,
Yeah. He was drinking while driving the fire truck. Yeah,
Oh.
they didn't like that at all. Student member, I did by happenstance run into Chris Bangs at the waiting for coffee to get coffee at Cutsford's. And he and I chatted for a bit, and he hadn't responded to my earlier email because it was spring break week and they were changing class schedules. I guess they're on terms at the Canby High School. And so he has his new class schedule, and I told him we would really like to have a freshman or a sophomore so we get like 3 or 4 years out of the work. And he was gonna get back to me. He still hasn't, and that was a couple of weeks ago, but I will bug him again. Design review training, I did get links to some design review training, and I'm gonna share those with you. And I think the best approach would be for us to individually take a look at it when you have a chance. I will preview them first to make sure that they're not, and there's not anything that would be a problem in Oregon under Oregon code, but, and also to make sure that they're not completely boring. And then I think what we can do at that point then is I can reach out to the SHPO person who's the expert, and she can join us at our May or our June meeting and have a discussion and answer our questions. And we can have a discussion about what did we learn and what does it mean? So. The Drazen letter, we don't know if it went out. It's sort of got very complicated for reasons that I've never understood, but we're gonna find out soon.
And I'll ask Maya, she'll be in tomorrow, so I'll ask Maya tomorrow and
Okay.
follow up with Tyler as well and make sure that,
It got sent.
Yeah.
Cool. And then Ron,
Okay, thanks. At the last meeting, we talked about the handbook and you were all given a copy of it. So tonight, we're gonna see if there's any comments or corrections or feedback on the handbook before we go any further. So I would entertain a discussion.
I think I've shared with you, but maybe not with everybody else, that one of the 2 things that I think need to be in, well, actually 3 things that I think need to be included is, first of all, a list of, our accomplishments over the years so that people know what they're getting into and know the kind of work we do. And then the second thing is a process flow. Maybe it's a step-by-step guide. I'm not going to really do a process flow for design review and also for how do you get your house designated, so that if somebody asks any of us, we'll have a sheet of paper and we can talk intelligently to residents about those things. Those are my comments.
I have not looked at it recently, but at least in my quick breeze through, I couldn't find the section that talked about the benefits of having your house designated. Is there tax breaks? Is there, I mean, and there really isn't a lot right now, correct?
Correct.
That's correct.
So that's a real hard sell to say, can we give you a bunch of rules to follow when there isn't any perks yet? I mean,
We've got-
right, we're working on that.
Yeah, we don't have
I
any
guess-
carrots.
Yeah, if you had some sort of carrots, you will get a gold star every first day of the month, you know, something
Yeah.
like that.
Well, actually, in the code, if you go to the very last section of our code,
Mhm.
there's a whole thing in there that says, it says the planning director is going to be doing this, and I don't think he's probably got the time to do it, but it says the planning director shall establish an award system and all of these things, and it's
Okay.
probably the planning director means it's going to be us, and so it's one of the things that we may want to think about when we get to the goal discussion about
Great. okay.
what can we do to get incentives?
Mhm.
I thought it was good. I thought it was well written. I would agree with Carol. I noticed that wasn't in there, but, I liked the glossary of terms in particular. I thought that was super helpful. Yeah.
Who knew and
Yeah,
not-
even for people that know, that have been around, I mean, this just, just to be able to refer to it was great, so I thank you for that.
Could I go back? I wasn't quick enough, Carol, on the third point you made. What was it?
That for designation, there's a process you go through to get a house or a property designated. And again, it involves the planning department, but it involves us and it involves some work on the part of the applicant too.
Doug, did you have anything? Jason, Jamie?
As your council liaison, I shouldn't have anything. I'm here to monitor the situation,
Okay, in case we get all.
not influence the process.
Please. So,
If it had said, let's do some crazy thing, yes, but otherwise you folks do your thing.
Carol, I have a couple questions and I do appreciate the points you made. And my questions are basically, are these items to incorporate in the handbook? Or should the process flow document be separate?
Well, the only reason I put it in there is because, you don't have to, it could be separate. Yeah, I just want, everybody here should understand the process. That's my thing. So, and the best time to talk to people about the process is during some sort of orientation, which we should be doing with every new person that comes on board. And it's just nice to have it there in the handbook so you can give it to that person.
All right, so I think the next step would be with these comments, and I think there was a typo in there as well. We can bring it back the next meeting for the committee to approve or consider.
And this, I'm gonna bring up that other issue right now too, that I don't, probably none of you have ever been told that if you miss 3 meetings in a row, it's consecutive meetings, and are not excused, you can be removed from the board. And so that's just something you should all know about. And Ron's suggestion was that maybe in the handbook, we could even at some point, and doesn't mean we have to stop work on the handbook, that wasn't what I was thinking, but that we actually would discuss what's a logical reason to be excused, or what maybe is not, or what is that, or do we want to make some changes to that?
Well, in that section, in the handbook, I think the chair has to be notified if you're not going to attend. I mean, everybody has something that comes up at the last minute. And you don't have to justify that. You just need to let the chair know, because if the chair realizes there's not going to be a quorum, then we need to find another date to meet, reschedule the meeting,
Right.
instead of everybody showing up and then don't have a quorum and.
So what I will say to that is that if you plan on folding things like that into your document, you will want to make sure to consult the city charter as well as the current policies and operating guidelines section as it pertains to boards and commissions and stuff for the city. I will mention that and we'll talk about this a little bit in the goals, that the council is currently working on updating the policies and operating guidelines portion of that. The next big chunk that will get worked on is the boards and commissions, because there's some things that need to be addressed in there. So if you do fold some of that stuff in, it may change, and when it does, we'll let you know. And then if you fold some of that stuff in, it might also be good to have it looked over by the city attorney, just to make sure that there's nothing in there that's contradicting the charter or the guidelines.
Oh, that's a good point.
Point well taken. I did look at the charter and the guidelines, current guidelines in the code. Nothing in this document conflicts with that.
Sure, I'm just letting you know that if you're gonna fold some of that stuff in, you just wanna make sure it aligns. And if you have any questions or there's any concerns about how that jives, you're welcome to send that to the city attorney.
So what you're talking about is specifically the excused absences or.
Yeah, if you
Yeah.
start putting in verbiage about how excused absences are taken care of and those sort of things, that is stuff that we'll need to make sure that it doesn't conflict with the charter and such.
Okay, so my next question would be, if we leave that out and just let the council's revisions to what you're doing apply to this group as well as everybody else, we don't have to have a city attorney opinion on this.
Probably not. I mean, yeah, I would say when it comes to excused absences and stuff, I don't know of any, and Jamie, you could correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know of anybody who's been booted from a group because of poor attendance.
It's happened.
It has, okay. So that would be something that could be driven through you folks. I would not bring anything like that to the council unless it was the will of this group to have that done. But yeah, I mean, you can, I would just say that if you put stuff into the document like that, we're gonna wanna run it through legal.
My only comment on this is that it becomes crucial when we do have something like a design review, when we don't have someone that is leading up to it or isn't part of the training and God forbid is not there for the actual design review, doesn't really take part in it. And we don't have that person ready for that. And then we lose that person that we may need to get the quorum that we need in there. And so for us, that can be important.
Yeah, and like as
you
I
know,
said,
so,
you're welcome to fold that stuff in.
Yeah,
If you do, we just need to make sure that legal looks at it. And I, for my part, would never bring up at a council meeting having someone booted from this group
Mhm.
unless I first hear from you folks that that is the will, that is what you would want. That is not my chicken.
So I think in this particular case, there's a diplomatic solution. That term expires in June. So I think it might be the custom to check with the chair on reappointments, and you would find out at that point, hey, we had,
Yes, and
a year when she showed up once.
correct. And the city recorder or the deputy city recorder will usually reach out to the chair and say, hey, this person's term is up. Do you want to reach out to them? We've reached out to them to see if they want to re-up. And then that is how that process usually goes.
So you checked that?
they have to reapply, you have to reapply.
Any specific person?
Yeah.
No.
Can we say who that person is?
I've had to reapply in the past.
Adrian.
I'm not aware of you having to refill out the application. Usually you're contacted.
Well, yes, okay, when I say reapply, I mean, you have to verbally.
Yeah, yes, but I mean, as far
Verbally
as,
confirm, like I'm not, yeah, you're not filling
oh
it
yeah,
out.
no, they're not just gonna, if they don't hear from you, say, oh, this person's gonna stay on. No, but
Right.
but as far as having to go back through the process of filling out the application and all that stuff, yeah.
Yes, but-
Okay, so I think we've got a solution here.
Yeah, I know Adri, so I'll give her a call. I'll just ask her, Adri, do you want to do this anymore? I'm sure she doesn't. I'm gonna guess she doesn't want to do it anymore, and I'll just ask her, hey, well then put your resignation in so we can get somebody else in there that wants to be there. She'll be fine with that. I'm sure. She's a newly married lady. She just got married last August, photographed her wedding. I've known her since she was really young. She just, things happen. Right, and yeah, I think she just got into something else. So,
Sounds
Fair
good.
enough.
And if her term's up anyway, that works out well.
Yeah. It should be fine.
Okay, anything else, Ron?
That's it. Thank you.
You bet. So I'm gonna wanna just spend some time going through this little puppy here. This is just so everybody knows the work we've got in front of us for the next 6 months. Well, yeah, 6 months. See if you have any questions about that. I do want to say that one of the things that's not included in here at this time is the upgrade of the city hall designation to a national register property. It is Mary Hanlon, who is the owner of the city hall, is very leery about dealing with government agencies. And I understand that. And quite frankly, there was something that happened when the design review happened or occurred for her property that was really unfortunate. And it's one of those things that can really turn people off. They come prepared, they've got their attorney, they've got their architect, they're following all the rules, they're following what they've been told by the planning commission, and suddenly somebody on the HLC, or in one case on the planning commission, goes down a whole different path for some personal reason that they don't like something about what the property is, but it has nothing to do with the subject matter at hand. And so Mary's experienced that once. And, you know, the design review was approved by the majority of the HLC. It was just one person that voted no. But it scares people as property owners. They worries them, and it worries Mary a lot. So I don't think she understands that. And she had someone else, a friend of hers, call me to talk to me about, because she had told me that she would agree with it. And she had a friend of hers call me, and he really understands the process. And he's actually was the staff liaison for the city of Portland Heritage and Landmark Commission. So he knows his stuff. And I tried to explain to him something that I've explained to him, and he got it, but apparently she's still not getting it, that by going to a national register designation, the people that are going to judge what you do are still in this room. They're the same people. There's not going to be any difference at all. Nobody in the feds comes in from the Department of Interior or from the National Park Service and sits and watches what you do. So she's not changing the landscape at all, or we wouldn't be changing the landscape at all for her. I'm not sure she understands that. So I'm going to make one more attempt in an email, but at this time, I'm going to remove, if she says no, I will remove that project from our CLG grant, which means if I do that, I have to replace it with something. And I know Ron wants to be discussing some goals that we can talk about. And it doesn't affect our cash at all and how much money we're going to expend. The only thing it impacts is there was a 5,000 hours in there, or 4,000 hours of in-kind volunteer match. And so we're going to lose that. And so we'll have to make that up. And I think that's very possible. So going through the tasks for this next 2 or 3 months is mainly Historic Preservation Month, and then also making sure that we do some of the things that we need to do that are required by the SHPO, that we put out a press release that says we got a grant. One of the things they always want us to do is recognize them as the people that have contributed to our work. And they always want us to put out press releases and social media posts so that we're thanking them appropriately publicly, which I think is absolutely the best thing to do anyway. I do want to ask this group for one other thing. When I put in the 6 properties that we had agreed upon, and I came across something that tells me that I want to replace one of those. So let me tell you what it is. Downtown, we have a structure that was built in 1925. It is where Aura Salon is right now. It is that building. It is in the middle of the block. It is highly, highly likely that that building was constructed by one of the Kaler brothers. The Kaler brothers have constructed a lot of buildings in this town during that period of time. Mattress World, the former Cutsverse where 48 Financial is one of their buildings. The old police building is one of their buildings. I suspect this one is too. And it is according to this according to our ILS that was done in 2024, it is considered eligible and contributing. So that means it has enough historic integrity to kind of get in under the wire. If we can do an intensive level survey and find out some really good data on historic significance, such as part of a Kaler Brothers construction project, that's really would be very powerful. Kaler was important. Their parents were one of the founders of the Canby Evangelical Church, which is over on Township, one of our historic churches. And that church and their involvement was what created Zion Memorial Cemetery. So they have some really important, and I think both of the Kalers served on the city council at different times. So John and George. So I would like this group's okay to remove the 1961 duplex at 185 Northwest Fourth from the list and instead do a commercial property. That would give us one commercial property, one church, and 4 residences for our intensive level survey.
What's the address on this property?
The address on this property, good question, is 3-2, I'm looking, hello. Oh, 238 Northwest First.
It's a duplex. Is it the one that's, sits right next to the parking lot of the church? It's not that, is it that right over here?
No,
Is it a different one?
or a salon on First Avenue. That's when we'd be at.
No, the one we need to remove.
Oh, the one, it could be, yeah. It's 185 Northwest Fourth Avenue. That's when we'd be removing.
And that's a duplex. Do you have another, maybe thumbnail of it?
Yeah, right there. At the bottom.
Yeah. Anybody else want to see a photo of that?
So is everybody,
Oh, okay, that one.
is anyone willing to make a
Back.
motion?
Okay.
Is that, can I see the one we're talking about, Adam, get it on this page?
Yeah,
I
238,
gotta remember which one it is.
very old.
That's
1920.
small. Oh, it's Aura.
Yeah,
Oh, okay,
yeah.
gotcha.
Okay, so make a motion that we remove 185 Northwest Fourth Avenue to replace it with
238 Northwest First.
238 Northwest First Avenue.
Okay.
For the survey.
Thank you. Second,
I'll second.
all those in favor?
I,
Anyone opposed? Yep. Okay,
that's a neat building, actually.
yeah,
Sorry, I should get my hair cut. It's really neat on it. It feels like it. I mean, it.
I think that rear window, the one that's right at that,
Faces the
that-
back of.
yeah, I think that's an original, the one in the bathroom. Yeah, it looks like it's original. None of the other windows are. but- Okay, any questions on this project plan? I don't think I. There was one thing on here where I didn't have an assignment, and that was social media posts. I was thinking Heather might, since that's sort of part of the work that she does naturally, was thinking she might be doing that, but maybe Tyler can help us with that too.
Social media posts are through the city.
You know, I've done them just myself on Canby now.
Just, oh, personal.
Yeah, but it's nice to be able to, I'd rather have it be on the city and share it. That's what I,
Yeah, I think
That
that
makes more sense.
Tyler or I can help to create that, and it can be shared on the city of Canby Facebook, and then also the Canby Business, which is our kind of economic development one. And then it can be shared out. That's
Good.
how we've done kind of other things,
Yeah.
not with this group, but with other groups like Parks and Rec, parks openings or
Yeah.
things like that.
cool. Okay. Any questions on the project plans for the first 6 months? Changes. Okay, so Jason, you're up for city council goals.
Yes, so I was asked to give a quick update on city council goals. So we just recently codified these new goals. Council got together over the course of a day to update our previous goals, and when we accomplish the previous goals, we usually drop them and then add new or move some up that are already on the list from previous year, because this is sort of like some are short-term and some are long-term goals. So really quickly, just as a rundown, we have 5 primary goals with the various sub-goals underneath. When it comes to goal number 1, promoting financial stability, some of the things to point out is we're getting the city charter updated. The city charter has not been updated since the early to mid 80s. And so therefore, there's a lot of language in there that is out of date. There are limitations for the city administrator to spend money. So we do a lot of ordinances to approve spending because the limit is $50,000. For like above $50,000, it has to come to the city council as an ordinance, and that is ridiculous. And most cities, it's several $100,000. So how I have been chatting with members of council and have envisioned it is when there's updates to the city charter, it has to go before the citizens. And rather than doing it as one raft of changes, it would be done in chunks. So there'd be some pretty easy things that shouldn't be contentious, some medium things, and then some of the more difficult ones. So that way, instead of nothing getting passed, at least some stuff is getting passed and we're making updates. Also, it might be a little more expensive because you have to pay to get everything on there on the ballot, but at least it wouldn't be money wasted to have nothing actually go through. And then sustainability when it comes to the budget, some of the things is where the urban renewal district is getting ready to sunset. So we have to move the expenses of the economic development department and stuff into our general fund. And that will be covered essentially by the tax increment that's going to be coming into the city from the closure of the URD. And then all of the lesser taxing districts, such as the fire department and the school, will start to get those funds. Also expanding library services and adjusting our SDCs. The system development charges are things that developers pay when they are making a new development in the city. And after some studies, it turns out that Canby is one of the cheapest in the area. And so that is why we are so popular with developers. And so it has been determined that we need to make some serious updates to that. And one of the things that was brought to our attention is whether you're building a large house, a small house, an ADU, you pay the same amount. And so someone can build an apartment complex and they pay the same amount as if they were building a house. And clearly the apartment is going to put more strain on our systems. So there's talk about updating that methodology. And then also one of the big things is what to do with the adult center. As you probably know, the Canby Adult Center Group is finalizing its purchase of the Methodist Church and will be vacating that building to move over there in the next year or so. And that building is on school property, but it's city owned.
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting.
Yes, the nice thing is by giving them some ARPA funds, the Adult Center Group, it will get the city out from underneath the community block grants that were used to build that building. If the adult center, if we had not have done this and we didn't put another group in there that did something similar, the city would have to pay the $500 and some odd thousand back for those block grants. And so this way it shifts that. There is going to be a discussion as far as what goes on with that building. I will not be bashful and say that my goal is to have it raised and scraped off the property, so that we don't have to pay the school to have it on their property anymore. As far as aligning resources for growth, we're finalizing the comprehensive plan and the urban growth boundary expansion. This also includes the transportation system development plan update, as well as parking study downtown. We're also looking at, work continues with an update on trying to get a hotel in. This is one of the big things that Jamie is working on. I'm sure she is dreaming of hotels in her sleep at night. Unfortunately. And then updating the city codes. Similar to our charter, the city codes have not been updated since the early 80s. And so the developers and stuff know all these loopholes. So we need to work on getting that finalized. And with that, and also the city charter, I will advocate that we actually hire a company to come in that specializes in these things to find those updates rather than us trying to do it in-house with what limited staff's time we have. Transportation system to meet new and in the future needs of the citizens. The street maintenance fee is in the process of being updated. There's been some contentions with that. But the goal is to get that updated because the city or the state and the feds are going to continue to chisel away at what little money we get from them for updating, maintaining our streets. And so the street maintenance fee helps us control our own destiny. There appears to be some billing anomalies in there that need to be worked out. But it's been my recommendation that the city move forward with at least, cost of, or an inflationary index, tying it to an inflationary index and doing some sort of adjustment. It's been $5 since its inception, like 15 years ago. And that $5 that we were collecting 15 years ago is now essentially $2.25 or 75 cents. So, it's not pulling its weight. Street work as far as street work, we're gonna be, doing the Walnut Street extension. That is gonna break ground this year. And, that's gonna be huge into the industrial park. And then you're also gonna see, North Ivy Street finishing up. That's been under, construction for quite some time. Sidewalks, the undergrounding of the power is already done. And then if memory serves me correctly, once that's all finished, the city will take that over from the county because that's actually a county road now.
And you're talking South Ivy.
Or South Ivy, did I say north?
Yeah.
Okay, South Ivy. And then the other big street project that's gonna be done is 10th. 10th from about Holly all the way to Pine is gonna get completely yarded out. Sidewalks, sewer, water, it's gonna be a huge project. And so that is one that we're really excited for. And Jerry, the Public Works Director, and I think you might have helped him as well, coordinating with the landowners there to get right away for sidewalks. So they should be able to get sidewalks down the whole thing.
They don't have sewers?
Well, the sewer is there. It's just ancient. And when and the goal of any of these large street projects is when we are tearing the street up to do this,
Get it all done.
get it all done. So that way, Canby Utility or the city does not have to cut back into that street after it's been done. Because as soon as it gets cut, it degrades at a much faster pace. The other thing that we're gonna be working on is, I mentioned the parking master plan. And then, working on how we figure out how to get more funding for our transit service. There is clearly a need for enhanced transit services within the city as well as connecting to other local districts. And so that is something that we are working on. The other big one is getting it figured out about the construction of the new transit center. There was some stuff that happened there that we were not expecting, and so we're working on trying to figure out how we deal with that land. For Park and Rec plan, funding options for increasing the service, whether that is doing some sort of IGA with Canby Area Parks and Recreation District with the city to create some sort of taxing mechanism for that. And then the big one that they're gonna be doing is the Parks Master Plan. The Parks Master Plan was done a couple of years ago. But they've got to essentially update all of the projects for the Parks Master Plan so that then the system development charges that are able to be used for constructing new parks and constructing new amenities within parks can then be spent on those things. If it's not in the plan, the money cannot be spent on them. So those are some of the big ones we're doing there. And then engagement with the community, we're gonna complete the update of the council policies and operating guidelines. We're gonna be doing some work on streamlining engagement with the community, so that way they feel more connected. The emergency master plan is in its final stages, correct? Or,
The plan is completed. Now it's implementing the plan, so doing training for staff.
correct, so staff and interacting with other agencies and stuff in the area to get that going. And then the other thing is we really want to see the youth get more involved in the process. They are the ones that will be taking this ball from us when we are ready to pass it on. And so the goal is to hopefully foster the youth to be more connected to the community so that eventually someday they come back. and pick up where we've left off. So
That's a good one.
yes, so that is sort of like the down and dirty fast. I think it was more than 5 minutes, or 2 minutes or whatever I had. But that's kind of a high level overview of the council goals. Any questions?
I think it's great.
Yeah, a lot of great information.
Yes, and we got it all hammered out in a day. Usually it's a 2-day process, but this year we got it all done, well, kind of. We got most of it done in a day, and then we had a second meeting where we prioritize everything. And so, yeah, there's some pretty big things that we as a council need to get checked off with the city administrator and city staff. And so, yeah, it's gonna be an exciting year.
Timeline for the Ivy to be finished?
I believe this,
I think it's October at this point,
yeah,
something like
And
that.
when do they plan to break ground for the 10th Street project?
10th is this summer.
Is that like a year project or?
It should be done by, I think with that one, it'll be done in the fall as well. Or is, because it's not going over into next year, if memory serves me correctly.
Okay, so less than 6 months.
It's gonna run through the fair, so that's,
A nightmare.
yeah, it's gonna, but unfortunately, there's no way to get that project done and like started and done before the fair. From what I understand, Jerry has already been working with the fair folks and the group and the engineers and stuff. And the goal is to have it to a point where during the fair, all of the cones and all that stuff can be picked up. So that way it might be rough and it might be not completely finished in spots, but there's not gonna be like closures and stuff. And then once the fair is over, then they can come in.
So they'll
And
move down
finish it up.
to a smaller, they'll shrink their services that week and then move.
They'll probably not do anything that during the fair. I think the plan is to just not hold off and they'll go off, that contractor will go off and do some other project while the fair is going on.
So on South Ivy, it's pretty rough right now. Are they gonna go in after, there's,
It's gonna get milled down
Yes.
and re-paved and yeah, they're gonna yard most of it out and put in the sidewalks and it's gonna look probably very similar to North Redwood Street. Once everything, like how North Redwood Street was very choppy and rough. It will be a similar transformation for South Ivy.
yeah, it's really nice. Cool. Yeah, great. Okay, next item on the agenda is our goals. And Ron, you're gonna lead that discussion?
Yes, thank you. So following up on what the city council does, we are a creature of the city council. So the work of this commission should dovetail with the leadership of the council, where they're directing the city's focus in the future. And to accomplish the goals, what we would like to do is have everyone on the commission have an opportunity to present ideas that they would like to see. And then through a process at our next meeting, we can share those ideas. And then as Jason mentioned, there'll be some way we come to agreement on prioritizing those ideas. So that we know what we want to accomplish. It's in my experience, it's hard to sit in a meeting not knowing where the organization is going. You can end up spending a lot of time in meetings and not accomplish anything. So I'm the kind of person that should check things off. So if we can come up with a list of goals, prioritize them, then we know how we should appropriate our time. And I had asked Jamie to provide copies of the couple pages out of chapter 4 of the historic preservation plan. And I wanted to just highlight that a lot of this work has been done previously and done at a very high level. So on page 43, there's definitions of what a vision statement would be, mission statement, goals, policies, proposals, and so forth. Earlier on this agenda, we had Carol go through a list of very detailed items in a work plan. So what we want to do is the vision statement and mission statement. I don't know if you want to change those or have a discussion about that. In my personal opinion, they look good to me. And then there are three primary goals that are contained in the historic preservation plan. And were found on page 44. Goal 1, preserve and strengthen Canby's identity. Goal 2, utilize historic preservation to inform city decision-making. And goal 3, foster public understanding of historic preservation's community benefit. So when all of you come back next month with your 3 to 5 goals, maybe we can identify which of these they fit under. And then there's usually a process where we both might have the same goal in mind, but we say it differently, so we can kind of combine those ideas. And then maybe at the meeting after that, we can do some prioritization, and then we'll have a set of goals. That sound reasonable?
I will just throw this out there. When the city council does its goals, one of the imperative things is that we make sure that they're achievable. And so we run all of this through the city manager, who then sends it to the department directors to ensure that the goals that we are coming up with, they have the time to do it. So what I would say is, when you do your goals, make sure that there's not, like, for instance, you don't want to have too many. Have some short and long-term goals, but then also make sure to consult with Tyler as far as time and stuff. Anything that would involve staff time, we want to make sure that nobody's overwhelmed or underwhelmed.
And we would identify if they have a financial impact
Yes.
on the city's budget, and that's up to the council to incorporate that into a future budget or not.
Mhm.
And there may be grants for things that we want to do.
Yep. No, I think that's great. In fact, I would say that if you go through this process, you will next to the Parks and Recreation board, you will be one of the only ones that have such a document.
Okay, so if you can be thinking about what are your 3 to 5 goals you'd like to see the commission address. Bring those to the next meeting, and then we'll have a little roundtable and share those goals, and I'll record that somehow, and then in the following meeting, we'll feed that back and set priorities. That would be the June meeting, we'd set priorities. That sound reasonable?
Yeah.
And Ron, you kept the goals I sent you.
Yes.
Okay. Still have a little time left. Anything for the good of the order?
I will throw out one thing. I don't know if you know this, and this was actually something that I had started and have been working on for some time now. Several years ago, or a couple of years ago, the historic Lee oak tree had been cut down due to its health. And I had reached out to the folks that owned it and salvaged several large pieces of the tree and took it to a friend of mine who does wood turning. And asked him if he would be willing to turn some things for City Hall, the Depot Museum and such. It is still sitting in his yard. I've been pestering him, but the goal is this summer to actually get something done of that. And so that is something that I hope to have. The goal is to have some turned trees made out of the tree, and have them mounted on a plaque that talks about the tree itself. And then perhaps make some tiny little trees out of the same wood that can be then given out to folks in the city. So
Now, you do know that the depot has some slices,
Yes, I know that they got those.
and you know that they have the original plaque that
I do know
the
that.
state put there.
Correct, yes.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. My trailer was not happy hauling all of that wood to Beaverton, but it made it.
That was a big tree.
It was a very big tree and
And you know, we've got some great photographs of it too.
Yeah.
I mean, so there's all sorts of things you can do with that. Yeah.
mhm,
Good for you.
yes, so work in progress still.
Cool. Thank
That's
you.
cool. Yeah.
Anything from anyone else?
First Thursday, well, Tyler's not here. I think, is he handling where everybody's location is with the tables and all of that? So I need to email him.
Yes.
So the Canby Historical Society, I told Carol, so we're putting our newsletter, and we are gonna promote in our newsletter the Preservation Month, Historic Preservation Month for May, and then also the tour, and you saw that. What I'm hoping is that we can have our table next to the HLC table, or the table, the sign-up table
Oh,
for the tours.
oh, and that's not, yeah, that's gonna be at the first Thursday
Yes.
table? Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, just
So
talk
I'm
to,
hoping we can be next to each other, and I wasn't sure who to ask about that.
Tyler's the person,
Okay,
but I'll,
and hopefully, I mean, everything hasn't been planned out yet, but I wanted us to link up for
That-
that.
so you want the Canby Historical Society table directly next to where you sign up for tours, which is at the first Thursday booth.
right.
If we can,
Yeah.
if it's possible, we can be more in the mix, because I know that Brian wants to sort of be more of a presence
And
with
for
that,
those
and
of-
it kind of interlaps with what we're doing.
And
so.
for those of you that don't know, Brian Dintelman is the president of the Canby Historical Society, so.
Yes.
When did that happen?
Not that long ago.
We voted a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
First of
Yeah.
the year is usually when it happens. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's always a shock to know that Nora's not president anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, because at the last first Thursday, there was a table right next to Tyler. Isn't the next first Thursday meeting April 11th at 8:30 in the morning? That's an awful time.
I don't think it's the 11th, I think it's the 17th. And the reason we do them at 8:30 is so that the businesses can come before they're open. So that then they can, because many of them are the one and only. I don't have access to Tyler's calendar on my phone, but I believe it's the 17th.
Okay,
But I can pass that information along, and I don't think it should be a huge issue. All of those booths where they're set up are all very fluid, except for the city's booth.
Okay.
Just so that we can kind of keep people in the habit of coming to the same location, but the rest of it is pretty fluid, so.
And is there gonna be a sign-up sheet beforehand that's gonna be accessible for anybody that we can put in that newsletter for the tour that's gonna be
Yes.
here somewhere?
it's
Not just at the time, I know you told me like it's going to be,
here at the city building somewhere. And
so who should we point them to for our members, for the Historical Society?
Could we make that a digital form that people can sign up?
that's up to Tyler.
Yeah,
Because Tyler.
Tyler is overseeing all of this, so it can definitely be a digital form.
The only thing you have to be careful of is, I've limited this to 15 people
Oh.
per tour, no more. I don't have a
How
voice
many
that can
tours are you
handle
gonna do?
3.
Do you have a
15.
voice projector thing to use?
I may call on my friend Donna Ellison to say, because she has said she's got a megaphone.
Oh, good, yeah. It's one of those like, and it just naturally goes,
Okay.
yeah,
It's just hard to, and yeah,
who wants to yell or hold that?
yeah. And sure enough, somebody in the background say, speak up. And I'll probably say, go away. Yeah. Okay.
I will say one other little history piece for you folks. I think it's been since your last meeting. The Willamette Falls Landing Heritage Area Coalition is now officially into the historic Westland City Hall. All the construction there is pretty much done. There's some weird things that were not dealt with. But the group is, Old Oregon Photos will be back up and running here within the next few weeks. And then, we're gonna be renting out some of the space upstairs to some local organizations that are tied historically into the area that need office space. And, the big thing that's kind of a bummer is with everything going on in Washington right now, we've decided to delay the legislation to get the National Heritage Site designation. So we're gonna wait a year or so, focus on getting operations up and running at the historic Westland City Hall with the building is beautiful. The exhibit area, when you walk in, there's a front desk and then there's some permanently built-in glass showcases that are in the wall that are all locked off. And we're working on getting some other display cases and stuff to be able to have some stuff in there here sometime later this year.
You need money?
There is, of course, we always need money.
Because I'm on the the Clackamas County Cultural Coalition Board now, and that's what we do is give out money, and there's a grant opening right now, closes on April 16th.
I will check with Brooklyn and Britta to see if they are, my suspicion is they have applied for that, so that's what?
It's the Clackamas County, it's the Cultural Trust Coalition, but it's the Clackamas County Cultural Coalition Board. And if you go to the County Arts Alliance site or the Cultural Coalition site, you can get access to I can send Britta the
Okay.
link to make sure she's got it. So,
Yeah, there's several grants that they're in the process of working on. It's going to take we hired a company called Alchemy and Design to
oh,
sort
cool.
of do a layout of what the exhibit space could look like. And I think to pull it all off, it's well over $100,000. And so we're talking about how we go ahead and do that. The big one right now is the building. The city is covering water, power, and sewer, but we are responsible for internet and security and all those other things. So getting all those systems installed and all that is running about $30,000.
Wow.
So yeah, to get all of the Wi-Fi in and get all the servers done and get all of the keypads in and the security cameras. There's already, it's not been used as a court and police station for many years, but the folks from Old Oregon Photos have been there with the doors unlocked. There's already been several people come in looking for the Westland police. So yeah, so they're working on that. And there's at some point in time when it gets to a certain point, and if you want to do a tour of the building, please let me know and we can work out setting that up for you folks.
Okay, anything else? If not, we're adjourned.
Adjourned.